So I came across this article from The Gamer, and I thought it was very interesting because apparently you have the actual director of Final Fantasy XIV, a game that you guys know I play very much, apparently is telling people to stop attacking voice actors and localizers. Now, I'm very curious what his actual words were because we all know The Gamer is going to try to spin this as something to be for the cause, if you catch my drift. But again, the fact that the director, Yoshida of Final Fantasy XIV, is out here apparently telling people to stop attacking voice actors and localizers, I find that to be extremely interesting.
I'm super cereal.
Now, I'll preface this entire video with this, okay? Just because a trans person was hired to voice a character doesn't fucking mean that the game is woke, right? I just want to throw that out there. Now, obviously, Final Fantasy XIV's community is unfortunately known for being extremely woke, and I still believe that that is the minority, not the majority of players, although the minority is extremely loud, especially on roleplay servers. They're extremely loud where they'll try to, openly advertise certain things. You'll have people advertising guilds that are, or link shells, or free companies, I should say, that are specific for LGBTQ people only or something like that, right? Or they'll try to do LGBTQ roleplay or some fucking weird shit like that. But the majority of people playing Final Fantasy XIV, I truly do not believe are woke as fuck. I just think it's a loud minority, but that's besides the point, just like real life. The point is now, apparently, people are trying to say that the game is woke because it has a trans voice actor. Now, me personally, don't give a fuck, don't care, right? As long as you do a good job voicing the character, I don't care. Now, I don't think they did a good job voicing Woke Lamont, okay? And I'm calling it Woke Lamont because it is quite funny. I heard that nickname and I was like, we're going to stick with that. But yeah, Woke Lamont is not a bad character because it's a trans voice actor, right? If that was the case, you could just turn on the fucking Japanese voice and be fine. But ultimately, people are going to complain about it regardless because they have been spoon-fed so much ideology, so much nonsensical identity politics in their video games that they're highly sensitive to it, and the moment they see it, they lose their mind. So let's get into this article, guys, from The Gamer. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, for me, okay, a lot of the wokeness, or at least the slight amount of wokeness, I should say, that comes in Final Fantasy XIV's recent expansion has to do with the way Woke Lamont is promoted as a character. I think it's very on the nose. I think it's a little bit girl bossy. I think it comes out of nowhere, so to speak. And you got to understand, too, what the Warrior of Light has been through. The amount of enemies that the Warrior of Light has defeated over the last 10 some odd years of this video game being out. For all of a sudden a female girl boss to come in here and be the sole reason why you're able to defeat the final boss, otherwise you would have been defeated, I just think it's a little bit wild to me, right? And I understand that the Warrior of Light has been depowered, all that stuff, but still, to go from Endwalker to, oh, we need this random cat chick to be able to save our lives is fucking insane to me. I think that's where the storytelling kind of falls in his face a little bit. But let's see what this has to say. Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail's expansion has its fair share of critics, with many feeling like the story was too slow, the scions were too insignificant or unnecessary, and that our Warriors of Light have taken too much of a backseat despite their power and importance. Now, for me, is more so the last one, which is what I've said many times before. I think it's a little bit ridiculous how they try to sell Woke Lamont by making the Warriors of Light weaker. I think that's a common trope that happens with a lot of female characters, and it's unfortunate because there are some amazingly well-written female characters that don't need the males or just another entity, right? In this case, the Warrior of Light. They don't need the Warrior of Light to be depowered in order for them to look more powerful, right? And that when they do shit like that, that's where it gets a little bit annoying for me, and that's why I personally don't like what they did with Woke Lamont. However, one of the more unsavory topics of debate has revolved around Woke Lamont, arguably Dawn Trail's main character, and a real Marmite at that. Unfortunately, a lot of the debates have devolved into transphobic abuse directed at actor Cena Bryan, who recently explained that he has been receiving regular death threats and doxing threats. Now, again, the fact that this person is saying they're getting regular death threats and doxing threats means that they should be able to have plenty of proof of these death threats and doxing threats and then be able to oust these people, right? You should be able to post them on Twitter so that we can openly condemn them. But you won't do that because you don't actually want to post the fucking evidence for whatever the reason may be. Now, that might be because you are maybe, I don't know, there's some clause maybe that you're under working for Square Enix or something like that. Maybe that's it. I don't really know. But it seems to be a pattern where you're going to have certain people who are used to the victim narrative try to push that narrative and say they're getting XYZ threats and then do nothing with it. They never show anything. They never post anything. I get threats all the time, literally all the fucking time. I'm getting threats right now on my Twitter about politics and gaming as I'm making this video right now about Final Fantasy 14. Literally getting threats right now, and I post them all the time because I think it's funny. I think these people are a joke, but you're going to never do that. So at some point, you're going to have to show proof. Otherwise, people are going to think you're crying wolf, and that's unfortunate, right? Because if you're telling the truth, then you want people on your side, and you can get them on your side if you openly post it, so that way people can openly condemn it. It says Square Enix itself has remained fairly silent over Wook Lamont's reception and the resulting abuse experience by Briar, but Final Fantasy XIV director Yoshida has used a recent interview with German outlet JP Games as an opportunity to condemn the abuse experienced by the game's voice actors and localizers. Now, the localizers are a whole nother problem, okay? Woke localizers have been a problem for a while now, and they openly advocate for it, right? These localizers come out and say, we love ruining your anime. We love ruining your manga. We love ruining your games. We love putting in our own ideology into, they call it localization philosophy. That's what they call it, which is, again, I don't know what the fuck that is, but here we are. It says, when asked about criticism aimed at the character Wook Lamont specifically, Yoshida explains that it's currently really difficult to discern valid criticisms about the game's story and Wook Lamont and people who are just criticizing the character in relation to values. Yoshida then moves on onto the abuse experienced by multiple people that worked on Dawntrail, including Briar, and requests the fans do not direct personal attacks at them. But I would very much like to request something. I would really like to ask the people not to direct personal attacks at the voice actors involved in the development and also individual members of the localization team. Well, you see, the problem, Yoshida, and I'm sure he probably doesn't even realize this, the problem is that people like Briar, and I'm not saying Briar did this, I'm saying people like Briar, right? Because they are on a particular ideological side, and while I don't like to put them all together, unfortunately, they do all tend to act the same. So people like Briar, what they tend to do is they tend to openly attack essentially anybody that ideologically disagrees with them, and what ends up happening is a result of a battle of wits, right, on Twitter, where eventually that always ends up devolving. It doesn't matter which side does it, left, right, center, it doesn't matter. Once you start getting into arguments on Twitter, everybody's ego starts getting high, and then with anonymity, they feel like they can say whatever the fuck they want to say, so then it ends up being devolved into absolute nonsense. This is why I try to openly advocate for discussions on stream, because people don't do that on stream, right? A lot of people are too bitch-made in order to do that on stream, so I advocate for it so it's a better conversation overall, and people can get their thoughts out a little bit more clearer. But unfortunately, there are certain sides of the aisle that do not want to have open conversation, because they know if they do, it's going to mean that their position could potentially be changed or could be swayed in not only to themselves but publicly to everybody else, and that turns them off, right? Their echo chambers need to be maintained no matter what. In terms of what Yoshida said, attacking the voice actors, again, localization team, voice actors, your localization team, I promise you, have been attacking people on Twitter. I am sure, and again, I haven't found any evidence, but I am sure if I were to look into the localization team for Square Enix, I would guarantee that at least one of them has been on Twitter attacking people left and right with leftist ideology. I would guarantee that that is the thing. But unfortunately, these developers are never going to openly say that. Obviously, Yoshida has to protect his team, and I don't think that's a bad thing, right? As a leader, you're going to protect your team even if they're in the wrong, and deal with them outside of it, right? Deal with them outside of the public eye, which is how it should be, right? If you're going to discipline someone, if you're going to handle someone or whatever case, it should be outside of the public eye if it's something company related. Then it says Yoshida goes on to say that people experiencing abuse are just doing their best to create something which is great for the creative process and shouldn't be attacked for their work. He then goes into more detail about Wook Lamont and why he feels the reception has been so controversial, but this small request is the first condemnation we've had from the Final Fantasy XIV team. It's unlikely to help very much, but at least now we got Yoshida's official stance on the matter. Again, I don't think it's a condemnation, right? It's not like he's condemning people, right? He's just asking people to please not do that, right? He's asking people. He's not condemning. He's not like, I condemn all of you people. You all bigots, right? He didn't say that. He's openly just saying, hey, can we please keep it civil, essentially, is what he's trying to do. But of course, the gamer is going to try to want to turn this into an epic win for the Wokies. That's not how it is, man. When it comes to Final Fantasy XIV or localization in general, If you're going to localize something, you should be respecting the original source material that it came from. The problem with woke localizers is that they don't do that. They don't respect the source material of which it came from, and they look at it as an opportunity to inject their politics, their ideology, and everything else under the sun into something that they didn't create, because they know if they created it themselves, they would never be successful. So what they would try to do is co-opt a current known IP, something that is already successful, and try to push it there, because that way they can at least get it out to as many eyes as possible without risking their own money and their own anything, their own IP in the process. They don't have to worry about it. You're risking someone else's money. You're risking someone else's IP when you do it. And unfortunately, like Square Enix, they're fucking around and finding out, man. That's just what it is. They're hiring these consultancies. They're losing money left and right. They're down to $90 million operating revenue. And as much as I love Square Enix, I think this is going to be one of those companies that is unfortunately going to fuck around and find out, and they're going to either close or get absorbed by another company. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.